The phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, its screen flashing in the dim light of a Los Angeles dawn. Trevor froze, his coffee mug halfway to his lips, as the notification lit up. Asterisk, meet me at Ocean Breeze, Ocean View Suite. Michael. Asterisk, his chest tightened. Michael, Abby's boss, the man whose name had wormed its way into every story she told about work. Trevor, a man who'd built his life on trust, felt something unfamiliar twist inside him. Doubt. Was Abby, his wife of 5 years, lying to him? He set the mug down, hands unsteady, and stared at the phone. This wasn't just a message. It was a crack in everything he thought he knew. Trevor, 32, a financial analyst with a knack for spotting patterns, had always believed in the strength of his marriage. He and Abby, 30, a rising star in marketing, with a couple friends envied. They'd met 6 years ago at a charity 5K in Santa Monica, bonding over post-race pancakes and a shared drive to make something of themselves. Trevor admired Abby's ambition, her late-night prep for client pitches, her quick wit in meetings she'd let him rehearse. He'd built a life in their quiet LA suburb, where weekends meant hiking Griffith Park or grilling tacos for friends. Abby's smile was his anchor, her laughter his compass. But the compass had started to spin. Abby's job at a high-flying marketing firm demanded more travel lately. First one-day trips to San Diego for client lunches, then overnight stays in San Francisco for strategy sessions. Trevor didn't mind at first. He'd stay up late helping her tweak PowerPoint slides, proud of her success. "You're killing it," he'd say, kissing her forehead as she packed. But her trips grew longer, her stories vaguer. And Michael's name kept surfacing. Michael had this brilliant idea for the campaign, she'd say over dinner, eyes bright. Or, "Michael says I'm his go-to for big clients." Trevor laughed it off, teasing, "Should I be jealous of this guy?" Abby's chuckle felt forced, her gaze darting away. The shift was subtle but relentless. Abby used to share every detail of her day. Funny coworker stories, client quirks. Now she brushed off questions. "Just work stuff. Nothing exciting," she'd say, scrolling her phone. She'd started packing alone, no longer asking Trevor to zip her suitcase. Once, he caught her slipping a silky sundress in her bag for a conference in Santa Barbara. "Fancy meeting?" he asked, half joking. She snapped the suitcase shut. "It's a team dinner, Trevor. Relax." Her tone stung, defensive in a way he didn't recognize. That morning, as the phone buzzed again, Trevor's unease boiled over. Abby was in the shower, the hum of water filling the house. He glanced at the screen. Another message from Michael. Asterisk, can't wait for this weekend. Ocean Breeze is perfect. Asterisk, Trevor's pulse quickened. Ocean Breeze wasn't a conference center. It was a luxury resort in Malibu, the kind couples booked for honeymoons. He hesitated, fingers hovering over the phone. He'd never snooped before. Trust was his North Star. But the messages gnawed at him. What was Abby hiding? With a shaky breath, he tapped the screen. The password, his birthday, unlocked it. The chat with Michael loaded, and each word hit like a punch. "Trevor thinks I'm at a conference," Abby had written last night. "He's clueless." Michael replied, "Good. The suite's at a hot tub. Just us." Trevor's stomach churned. He scrolled up, finding weeks of messages, flirty banter, plans for getaways. Abby's lies laid bare. "I told Trev I'm working late," one read. Another, "You make me feel alive." The betrayal was raw, undeniable. He set the phone down, hands trembling. The shower stopped, and Abby's footsteps echoed upstairs. Trevor's mind raced. Confront her now? Demand answers? But anger mixed with a colder resolve. If Abby could lie to his face, he needed to see how far she'd go. He jotted down Ocean Breeze Resort in his notes app, his jaw tight. Tomorrow, she'd leave for her conference, and he'd follow her to Malibu. Abby came downstairs, towel drying her hair, humming a tune. "Morning," she said, grabbing her coffee. "Big day?" Trevor asked, voice steady despite the storm inside. "Yeah. Conference prep," she said, not meeting his eyes. "Back Sunday." She kissed his cheek, quick and mechanical, then grabbed her keys. "Love you," she called, already out the door. Trevor stared after her, the words bitter in his throat. Love? He wasn't sure what that meant anymore, that Abby's car sped down the Pacific Coast Highway, the morning sun glinting off the ocean, but Trevor's eyes were locked on her taillights. His knuckles whitened on the steering wheel, heart pounding as he tailed her from safe distance. Last night's discovery, The flirty texts, the lies about a conference, the Ocean Breeze Resort, had shredded his trust. Abby wasn't heading to Santa Barbara for work. She was meeting Michael, her boss, for a weekend of deception. Trevor's gut churned with betrayal, but he needed proof. Today, he'd follow her to Malibu and see the truth for himself. The drive was a tense dance of keeping up without being spotted. Trevor, 32, wasn't a spy. He crunched numbers for a living, spotting trends in spreadsheets, not trailing cars. But the messages he'd found on Abby's phone had flipped a switch. The woman he'd loved for 6 years, married for 5, was slipping away, and he couldn't just sit at home, drowning in doubt. He'd woken before dawn, faking normalcy as Abby packed her bag. "Have a good trip," he'd said, voice tight, as she tossed a sundress into her suitcase. A dress that screamed beach getaway, not business meeting. Her quick, "love you," as she left felt like a knife twist. Now, 2 hours into the drive, the urban sprawl of Los Angeles gave way to coastal cliffs. Abby's car veered toward Malibu, confirming Trevor's fears. No conference centers here, just luxury resorts and private beaches. He stayed 3 cars back, pulse racing every time she slowed. What would he do when he saw her with Michael? Confront them? Walk away? The uncertainty gnawed at him, but he couldn't turn back. Not after reading "Trevor's clueless" in her chat with Michael. The words burned, fueling his resolve. Abby's car pulled into the Ocean Breeze Resort, a sprawling complex of glass and white stone nestled against the shoreline. Trevor parked across the street, his sedan blending with the tourist vans. He watched her step out, adjusting sunglasses, her movements casual but deliberate. She slung a small bag over her shoulder. No briefcase, no laptop, just the kind of light carry-on you'd take for a weekend escape. His jaw clenched. This was no work trip. Then Michael appeared. He stepped out a sleek black convertible, all confidence, his handshake with Abby lingering too long. Trevor's stomach twisted as they laughed, their ease slicing through him. Michael, 40, was the kind of guy who commanded boardrooms, polished, charismatic, the opposite of Trevor's quiet reliability. Abby had gushed about his vision for months, her admiration now a glaring red flag. They walked toward the resort's entrance, Michael's hand brushing her back. Trevor gripped the steering wheel, fighting the urge to storm over. Instead, he slipped out of the car, keeping his distance. The resort buzzed with guests, couples on honeymoons, families splashing in the pool. But Trevor's focus was razor-sharp. He trailed them through the open-air lobby, hiding behind a group of tourists. Abby and Michael checked in, their voices low but animated. Trevor caught snippets. Ocean view, private balcony. His blood boiled. This was the suite from Michael's text, the one with the hot tub. No work colleagues, no conference badges, just the two of them planning a weekend of lies. They headed toward the beach path, and Trevor followed, heart hammering. The resort's grounds opened to a stretch of golden sand, waves crashing softly. Abby and Michael stopped near a cabana, dropping their bags. She laughed, tossing her hair back in a way Trevor knew too well. Her real laugh, not the polite one she used at work events. Michael handed her a drink from a nearby bar, their fingers brushing. Trevor ducked behind a palm tree, his breath shallow. Every moment confirmed the betrayal, but he needed more. He needed to see how far this went. His phone buzzed, a work email, but it snapped him back. What was he doing? Stalking his wife like some private eye? He could confront her now, in this charade. But doubt crept in. What if he was wrong? What if this was innocent? The text screamed otherwise, but Trevor clung to a shred of hope. He pulled out his phone, opening the Notes app where he'd saved the hotel's name. Ocean Breeze Resort. No conferences scheduled this weekend. Here, writer. He checked online. This was no mistake. Abby stepped closer to the water, Michael at her side. Trevor's hands shook as he pocketed his phone. He wasn't ready to face her yet. Not until he saw it all, the full weight of her deception. He moved closer, staying low, the sound of waves drowned out by the storm in his chest. He was about to witness the truth, and it would change everything. Trevor's heart slammed against his ribs as he crouched behind the palm trees. The crash of Malibu waves barely registering over the roar of betrayal in his mind. Abby, his wife of 5 years, stood hand in hand with Michael, her boss, on the sunlit beach of Ocean Breeze Resort. Her laugh, carefree, intimate, cut deeper than any text he'd read on her phone. This wasn't a conference. It was a deliberate lie, and Trevor, hidden in the shadows, was about to rip it open. The truth was seconds away, and it would burn everything down. He'd followed her from Los Angeles, tailing her car along the Pacific Coast Highway after discovering her text with Michael. "Trevor's clueless," she'd written. "Ocean breeze. Just us," Michael had replied. Now, watching them stroll toward the water, Trevor's hands trembled with a mix of rage and heartbreak. Abby kicked off her sandals, her movements relaxed, as if she belonged here with Michael. The man, all swagger in his beach attire, whispered something that made her giggle. Trevor's vision narrowed, every detail sharpening. The way Michael's hand grazed her arm, the way Abby leaned into it. He'd meant to wait, to gather undeniable proof, but his body moved before his mind could catch up. The texts, the lies, the sundress packed for a work trip, it was too much. Trevor stepped out from behind the palms, sand crunching under his shoes. His voice, steady but laced with pain, sliced through the beach's hum. "So, this is your conference, Abby?" The words stopped her cold. She spun around, eyes wide, hands instinctively pulling away from Michael. For a split second, Trevor saw panic flicker across her face, but it wasn't enough to quell the fire in his chest. Michael froze, his confidence evaporating. "Trevor," Abby stammered, stepping forward, her voice shaky. "What are you doing here?" The question was absurd, almost insulting. Trevor's laugh was bitter, sharp. "What am I doing here? I followed you, Abby. I saw the texts. Ocean breeze, ocean view suite, hot tub. You think I'm that blind?" His voice rose, drawing glances from nearby beachgoers, but he didn't care. The world could watch. His marriage was already crumbling. Abby's mouth opened, then closed, grasping for words. "It's not what you think," she started, but Trevor cut her off, his hand raised. "Don't. I read everything. Trevor's clueless. Your words, not mine." He turned to Michael, who stood silent, eyes darting like a cornered animal. "And you," Trevor said, voice low and venomous. "You're her boss. You've got a wife, a kid. This is who you are." Michael shifted, mumbling, "Look, man, let's talk this out." But Trevor wasn't here for excuses. Abby took a step closer, her hands outstretched. "Trevor, please, let me explain. It was a mistake, a mistake," he snapped. "You planned this. You lied to my face for weeks. Packed a sundress for a conference in Santa Barbara. Told me you loved me while texting him about hot tubs." His voice cracked, the pain slipping through. 5 years, Abby. I gave you everything." She flinched, tears welling, but Trevor's anger held firm. He wasn't the one who'd broken this. Michael, sensing the heat, tried to back away. "This is between you two," he said, hands up, already edging toward the resort. Trevor's glare pinned him. "Running already? You're pathetic." Michael hesitated, then turned, striding quickly toward the cabanas. Trevor let him go. Chasing a coward wasn't worth it. His fight was with Abby, the woman who'd vowed to stand by him. She stood frozen, clutching her arms, the ocean breeze carrying the weight of her silence. "Trevor, I'm sorry," she whispered, voice breaking. "I got caught up. He's powerful. He made me feel—" "Don't," Trevor cut in, his tone icy. "Don't blame him. You chose this. You looked me in the eye and lied." He took a step back, the sand shifting under him. "I came here for the truth, and I got it. We're done." Abby's sob broke the air, but Trevor turned, walking back toward the resort's parking lot. Each step felt heavier, the weight of their shattered marriage pulling at him. He reached his car, hands shaking as he gripped the door handle. Behind him, Abby's voice called out, desperate. "Trevor, wait. We can fix this." But he didn't turn. The images, her hand in Michael's, her laugh, her lies, were seared into his mind. He slid into the driver's seat, the engine roaring to life. As he pulled onto the highway, the ocean blurred in his rearview mirror. Confrontation hadn't eased the pain. It had only made it real. Now, he had a choice to make. Let this destroy him or rebuild from the ashes. Trevor's tires hummed on the Pacific Coast Highway, each mile pulling him further from the Ocean Breeze Resort and the wreckage of his marriage. The image of Abby laughing with Michael on the Malibu beach burned in his mind, her hand in his, her lies exposed. He'd confronted her, voice steady despite the ache in his chest, and walked away. But as Los Angeles loomed closer, the victory of truth felt hollow. Abby's betrayal had gutted him, and now, back in their quiet suburban home, Trevor faced the unraveling of everything he'd built. The fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. He pulled into the driveway, the house dark and silent. No hum of Abby's music, no clatter of her making coffee. Trevor sat in the car, gripping the wheel, replaying the beach scene. Her panicked eyes, her weak, "I'm sorry," Michael's cowardice as he slunk away. 5 years of marriage, late-night talks, shared dreams, promises, dissolved in a single afternoon. He forced himself inside, dropping his keys on the counter. The silence pressed in, amplifying the chaos in his head. He needed to act, not wallow. Trevor booted up his laptop, searching for a divorce attorney. His fingers moved mechanically, booking a consultation for Monday. No hesitation, no second chances. Abby had chosen Michael, chosen lies. He wouldn't be her fallback plan. His phone buzzed, a text from Abby. "Please, let's talk. I'm coming home." He deleted it, jaw tight. Talking wouldn't erase the texts he'd read, the plans for a hot tub weekend, while he believed she was at a conference. Trust was gone, and no words could rebuild it. Hours later, the front door clicked open. Abby stepped inside, her steps hesitant, eyes red from crying. "Trevor," she started, voice trembling, "I messed up. I know I did. Please, just hear me out." She stood in the doorway, clutching her bag, but Trevor stayed seated at the kitchen table, his expression hard. "You heard me out on the beach," he said. "You said it was a mistake. But you planned it, Abby. For weeks. You laughed while lying to me." His voice was calm, but every word carried the weight of his pain. She crossed the room, dropping her bag, hands shaking. "I was stupid," she said. "Michael made me feel important, like I mattered in ways I didn't at home. But I see now it was nothing. I want us, Trevor." Her voice cracked, but he didn't flinch. "You didn't want us when you were texting him about hot tubs," he said. "You didn't want us when you packed a sundress for a conference. Don't rewrite the story now that you're caught." Abby sank into a chair, burying her face in her hands, sobs shaking her shoulders. Trevor stood, needing distance. "I'm filing for divorce," he said. "This isn't fixable. You made your choice." She looked up, desperation in her eyes. "I'll quit my job. I'll cut him off. Anything, Trevor, please." But her pleas felt like noise, empty against the clarity of her betrayal. He shook his head. "You don't get to undo this. I'm done." He walked upstairs, leaving her alone, her cries echoing in the house they'd once filled with plans for the future. The next day, Abby went to work, determined to salvage something. She cornered Michael in his office, closing the door with a thud. "We need to talk," she said, voice steady despite her nerves. Michael leaned back in his chair, papers scattered on his desk, his usual charm replaced by unease. "What's this about?" he asked, though his eyes betrayed he knew. "I left Trevor," Abby said. "For us. You said you loved me. So leave your wife. Let's do this for real." Her words hung in the air, bold but fragile. Michael's laugh was sharp, humorless. "You're serious?" he said, shaking his head. "Abby, I'm not leaving my wife. You were fun, a distraction, but you cheated on your husband. What's to say you wouldn't do that to me?" His words landed like a slap. Abby blinked, stunned. "You said I was special," she whispered. Michael shrugged, already turning back to his papers. "It was good while it lasted. But we're done. HR will need to see you. Company policy on workplace relationships. Good luck." He dismissed her, cold and final. Abby left his office, legs unsteady, the weight of her choices crushing her. She'd lost Trevor, her job, her stability, all for a man who saw her as disposable. Back home, she stared at the empty house, Trevor's absence a void she'd created. The life she'd taken for granted, his support, their shared dreams, was gone. And as Ginger, the truth was undeniable, but the cost was everything. Abby stood alone on the porch of the house she'd once called home, her hand trembling as she knocked. Months had passed since Trevor walked away from her at Ocean Breeze Resort, his voice cold with finality after catching her with Michael. The divorce was final, her job gone, her life unraveling like a thread pulled too hard. She'd gambled everything on a fleeting affair, believing Michael's whispers of love, only to be discarded. Now, facing Trevor's door, she clung to a desperate hope for forgiveness. But the man who opened it wasn't the one she'd betrayed. He was stronger, and she wasn't ready for what came next. The Los Angeles sun beat down, but Abby felt cold, her nerves fraying as she waited. She'd lost everything. Trevor's trust, her marketing career, even her friends, who'd drifted away when the truth spread. Michael, Her former boss had cut her loose with a smirk, citing company policy after their affair came to light. Her savings were dwindling, bills piling up, and the weight of her choices pressed harder each day. She needed to see Trevor, to beg for a second chance, to believe something could be salvaged from the wreckage she'd caused. The door opened, and Trevor stood there, his expression unreadable. At 32, he looked different, not in appearance, but in the quiet confidence he carried. The man who'd once been her rock, helping with late-night presentations and planning their future, now stood with arms crossed, a wall of resolve. "Abby," he said, voice flat, "why are you here?" Her throat tightened, words stumbling out. "Trevor, I made a mistake, the biggest mistake of my life. I'm so sorry. I lost everything, and I know I don't deserve you, but please, give me a chance to make this right." Trevor's eyes didn't soften. He stepped onto the porch, closing the door behind him, keeping her outside the life they'd once shared. "A chance?" he said, his tone sharp but controlled. "You had 5 years of chances, Abby. Every day you chose to lie, to sneak around with Michael, to laugh while I believed in you." She flinched, tears spilling, but he didn't stop. "I saw you on that beach, hand in hand, acting like I didn't exist. You don't get to walk back in now, because your fling fell apart." Abby's knees buckled, but she stayed upright, clutching her purse. "I was wrong," she said, voice breaking. "Michael used me, threw me away. I quit my job, lost my friends. I have nothing left. I know I hurt you, but I've changed. I'll do anything to prove it." Trevor shook his head, his gaze steady. "You didn't change because you saw the error, Abby. You changed because you got caught. Because Michael dumped you and HR fired you. That's not redemption. That's consequence." The word landed like a stone. Abby's sobs grew louder, but Trevor's face remained impassive. He'd spent months rebuilding, throwing himself into work, reconnecting with friends, even starting therapy to process the betrayal. He learned to find peace in routine. Morning runs through Griffith Park, late-night calls with his sister, new projects at the firm. The pain of Abby's affair lingered, but it no longer defined him. He'd moved forward, and she was no longer part of his path. "I loved you," Abby whispered, desperate. "I still do. We could start over." Trevor's laugh was quiet, bitter. "Love doesn't lie, Abby. It doesn't plan secret weekends while pretending everything's fine. I gave you everything, my trust, my time, my future. You threw it away for a guy who saw you as a game." He paused, letting the words sink in. "I don't hate you. I don't even wish you harm. But I'm not your fallback plan. You need to fix yourself, not us." She reached for his hand, but he stepped back. "Please, Trevor," she said, voice barely audible. "I'm lost without you." He looked at her, the woman he'd once planned a life with, and felt a pang of pity, but no regret. "You're not my problem anymore," he said. "Go figure out who you are without me or Michael. Good luck." He turned, walked inside, and shut the door, the click final and unyielding. Abby stood frozen, tears streaming, the reality of her choices crashing down. She'd lost the one person who'd truly cared, and no apology could undo it. As she walked to her car, the weight of her solitude settled in. Trevor, inside, sat at his kitchen table, staring at his phone. A new message from a colleague blinked. "Drinks tonight?" He typed back, "Sure," a small smile breaking through. His life wasn't perfect, but it was his again. Abby's betrayal had broken him, but it wouldn't define him. The real revenge was moving on, letting her live with the consequences she'd earned.